Welcome and thank you for joining us today for another episode of the Jain Irrigation Training Series. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that is Jain Unity water management software. You can see the information about it above my head here. Now, I say this is one of my favorite because it's a product that I use every day as a water manager. It makes my job a lot easier. And most importantly, it really helps me save water for customers and water for myself. And the thing about this software is it's very specific. And what I mean by that is Jain Unity software will set your irrigation schedule for you based on scientific calculations, right? You put in the parameters of what you want to do or what your landscape characteristics are. Is there a slope? What you've planted, how it waters, and a scientific schedule, a scientifically calculated schedule is generated from that. It then monitors 17 factors of the weather and adjusts daily. It also measures things like rain and adds rain to the amount of supplemental water that goes down. So it'd be actually a subtraction. These are things that no other software has done. It forecasts ahead the weather and adjust schedules based on predictive analytics of what's going to happen in the future. Very, very sophisticated and very usable at the same time. But oftentimes when I look at complex things like that, I start to think about sports, right? I love the analogy back to basketball, right? 10 players on a court. They've got all sorts of plays, different things to do, a lot of freestyle. The main objective, though, is to get that ball into that hoop. And I like to break water management down to that too, right? Because really, one of the basics of irrigation is what is ET? Basically, how much water do we have to replenish in our landscape? And then how much time do we have to run our irrigation to do that? So something that has multiple steps is broken down to that. And today we're going to be talking about two reports. One is the landscape report, and the other is the over and under report. And these really help us get to, in just a click of a mouse, figuring out how we're doing in the very basic of, are you supplying the right amount of water to what your landscape actually needs? And so taking us on this journey today is DJ Caldwell. DJ is a regional sales manager in the Rockies and in Texas. Now, DJ has been around at ET Water since 2016. If you've worked with DJ, you know, number one, the first thing that I think about when I think about DJ is customer service. He services his customers. If you have questions, if you need help, if you need somebody to come out and do an evaluation, call DJ. He's going to be there for you. He's going to return that call if he doesn't get it on the first ring. These are all the things that I think about with DJ and his customer service side. But the other thing about DJ is I know that he is very knowledgeable about water management. He really understands water management. I know all the contractors and property managers and homeowners he's working with get the benefit of that. So anyway, DJ, thank you for joining us and helping us simplify water management a little bit today.
Thanks for having me, Richard.
Yeah, so DJ, we're looking at almost August 1st now. We're a couple months into the summer, or 3 months into the summer, really. How's it been? I know you guys are experiencing a drought. How's the season going for you?
You know, we've definitely been seeing drought-like conditions pretty much all summer. We got a late snowstorm in May, but really since then, up until about, I'd say a week ago in the Front Range of Colorado, we really haven't seen any help from Mother Nature in the form of rainfall. I want to say it was back in May, late May, we were actually seeing ET values of like 0.33 inches per day, which out here is pretty much unheard of that early in the season. So the drought is definitely here. We're getting a little reprieve right now, so hopefully that continues for everyone.
Yeah, well, I also think about too how you guys had those monster windstorms in the winter and then the spring, right? You guys were getting 70, 75-mile-an-hour winds fairly consistently. I think that just dried everything out, I imagine.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, it was, I'd say 3-4 months straight of just what around here we would call Wyoming wind. and it really sucked everything out. And really, when we started the irrigation season, we were already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. Well, what's super great is that we do have technology that can help us, right, battle the drought, battle these conditions, and help improve a bad water situation. So I'm really interested to getting into these two reports. So let's get started.
Definitely. So really today, really what I really want to get focused on is, the two reports, the landscape report as well as the over under report. Really want to make sure everyone understands where you can find these. What information do they provide, and how can they help you in managing your water on a daily, weekly, or even monthly basis, to make sure that you're getting the most out of your smart controllers.
So which is the first report we're going to look at?
So we're going to look at the landscape report first. But really, I wanted to show everyone where we find the report. So when you first log in, you're going to be on your dashboard page. This is the first thing you see. And as you can see right here, dashboard is highlighted. But if you click over onto the reporting tab, it brings you now into all the different reports we can run. As I mentioned, we're really going to be looking at the landscape report as well as the over and under report, because those are really the two newest, and really can help you and your team manage your water.
I love that you said under first, right? Under watering, right? That's the way your mind thinks. I like that, even though it's called the over under report, under over report. Yeah.
Makes more sense that way to me.
Yeah, definitely. I like that thought process.
So first, we're gonna go into the landscape report. So if you click into the landscape report, the first thing you're going to see is that it says no data. Really, the main thing here is not to freak out that the report's broken. It's all because we haven't selected our parameters here yet. So over on the right side of the screen, you can see all the different sites that I have listed. So for this example, we're going to go ahead and look at the controller I have at my house. So I would click on the site name Caldwell Residence as well as my controller, and now we can see all of the data for my 11 zones that we have on this controller. If we look at,
just to back up, DJ, I'm sorry to interrupt, but so if I was a account manager for a contractor, what I'd be seeing on the right-hand side is all the controllers I manage, right? All my different sites, and I could just click through and find each one specifically.
Correct, yes. So this list here on the right is going to match the list of controllers that are on your dashboard. So everything that you have access to manage.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks.
So really, when we look at this report, it's going to give us the controller name, the station name, station number, but it's also going to give us the pertinent information that is used when you are setting up or programming your ET Water Smart Controller. With the plant material, the type of irrigation, and in a little bit I'll show you where we pull a little bit more information. But root depth is also very important. One of the reasons I really like this report is it can help catch any discrepancies. So if you look down here on my station 9 here, the name is drip strawberries. However, the plant material selected is flowers or bedding. So right there, I know that this spring my wife and I changed over from a flower bed and we planted strawberries. So I know now that oops, I made a mistake. I didn't make this change, so I need to go back in and change this, so that way the system is providing water in the best manner possible to the actual plant material. Because if we're watering strawberries as flowers, we're probably going to be overwatering that material instead of letting it run what it's supposed to, per the calculations.
Yeah, so what an easy way to see this, right? One page, I'm looking at 11 stations, and I can quickly go through and make sure that everything is in sync or is correct with what I know the landscape to be. Because this is really the information, DJ, that the irrigation schedule is based off of.
Correct, yes. So A perfect example would be the like zone 1, a pop-up in my front easement. It's a spray head, but let's say I converted that over to drip irrigation, but I didn't change this. It's still going to be watering as if it was a spray head. So we're not going to be putting down the right amount of water for the irrigation method that is actually being used.
So DJ, somebody using a conventional controller, a dumb controller, how do they do this?
It's really, it goes back to, either your previous knowledge or really kind of a guess. You're just entering in days and minutes, whereas, the smart controller, it's looking at the true plant material, and it's trying to water specifically to that plant material. Where if you're on a standard controller, you're just telling it how many minutes to run, and the controller really doesn't care what it's watering. It's just, its main job is just to turn on a valve and turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like I'll probably get a lot more savings out of using a smart controller, putting in these variables.
Definitely. And another way that you can, is I tell all my customers, eke out a few more or a little bit more of savings is by, changing your water budget. I mean, if you look here, my first 5 zones are all at 80% water budget. It's not that the controller is calculating it out wrong. It's that, I found that tipping point in my landscape. I see it every single day, so I can really micromanage it a little bit better, but it really gives me a good point of where I need to go. If I drop any of those first 5 zones down to, let's say, 75%, I'm going to see my turf flash in just a couple days, because it's really not, we're not getting the right amount of water. And so this is what I would consider one of those fine tuning points that you can do over the first, 2 to 3 months of installing a controller. Or if you don't want to do it when you first install it, really let it, when you start the next season, you can start a little bit lower on your water budget and really kind of watch it and see what it does.
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned that, right? You could just set it and forget it, and that'd be fine. But you can also be active in the management and do an even better job, right? In fact, earn your keep as a water manager. So yeah, so I see we've got a few questions coming in, and I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have the Q&A and the chat open. So if you want to ask some questions, put them in the Q&A, and any comments in the chat, and I'll make sure DJ gets those.
Perfect.
So
the next thing I want to talk about,
we did have one question coming in. I wanted to get this. I think it's a good time to ask this question. And are you able to adjust the values directly from the report? So could you change something that you see in the report on the report?
No, you are not. You would need to go into your dashboard and then click into your specific controller or site that you're looking at to make those changes.
Yeah. So, okay. And then I see you can also just download this report or share it with other people.
Correct. Yeah. So we have a couple different ways you can download it. The first is this download report, which I really like because it gives it a very nice, clean, printable PDF that, any water manager would be able to print off and hand to their irrigation techs when they're, I recommend it anytime that you're doing an irrigation startup or, things slow down in the middle of summer. When they're doing their wet check, they can run around and they can make sure that all of these, settings are actually right. I find this really important, really, like I said, starting in the spring, or if you're a contractor that's taking over a new site and you don't know how it's programmed, you really want to make sure that all this information is accurate in the controller so you can start off on the right foot.
Yeah, no, it's a great check and balance, I think. Definitely worth the time to click a couple times and see it.
Definitely. And I really like also, if you go back to the report, we have this other download CSV option, and that takes you into an Excel format, which I like this. I think it's it looks a little jumbled right here, but it does give you a few extra things to look at, like your soil type, your slope, as well as your sun exposure, which all those can be important as well. So someone that's really wanting to make sure all the settings are correct, you could take it into this Excel and clean it up a little bit, and then print it directly from here to hand off to the guys.
Wow, that's really nice to be able to see that in one shot. And I love the fact that you could print it out, you could email it. You know, if you've got crews that don't report to the office, you could email it to them. They get it on their phone. They can start taking action right away.
Definitely, it's a great tool to have. It's something I'm really excited that we added, because I think it brings a lot of depth to the platform, and like you said, kind of checks and balances as well.
All right, very nice. I can see how that's a big time saver for people.
Yeah, definitely. It's really beneficial, like I said, especially if you take over new sites or just want to verify everything to start the season. It's really helpful. I know a lot of my customers really like having that.
Okay, so now we're going to look at the over and under report, my equivalent of this ball in that basket.
Exactly. So it's going to be the same thing. I mean, you're really going to want to click on the over under report. Again, you're going to see no data. Once again, that's because we haven't selected any time frame down at the bottom or the controller. So once again, we'll go ahead and click on my controller at my house. So once this report generates, it gives you a lot of very good information. Your total ET value over the last, in this option, I have the last 30 days. So 7.4 inches. It's going to give you the total amount of rainfall, average irrigations per station, as well as percentage to plant water requirement. So this is a report. This specific report at my house looks very scary because we are at 178% of the plant requirement. And also, if you look, we really want to look at the orange, which is the ET values per day, and then the blue is what we're applying. So really, in all honesty, you don't want to see these that much higher than what the ET value is. I know why the reason is, but I'll kind of step you through as to why we're looking at it this way.
Yeah, I was going to say, DJ, when I first looked at this slide, I went, DJ is not doing it. This is the cobbler's kids have no shoes. He's not paying attention here. But love to hear what you would do if you saw this type of chart and how you would analyze this.
Yeah, definitely. So once we're on this report, if we scroll down, and I'm going to just say right now, these are all screenshots, so you aren't seeing a live version. So just know that they are screenshots, and the reports can take a little bit longer to load than what it looks like right now. So if we do scroll down, we see that we have these 4 options of ways to look at all the information under the report. So right now, I'm just going to keep it under total. And so I see the site, it gives me the plant requirement, what I've actually irrigated, and then how much I'm over or under the total plant requirement. If we take this little drop down menu right here, it brings us down and it shows us what every single zone is watering on the system. So as I'm looking at this report, I can look at zones 1 through 8. They're all 1 inch or 2 inches below what the ET, the plant water requirement that was calculated, actually is. And that goes back to the percentages that I have set, where 80 or 90% under my water budget. That's really what we're seeing right here when when we get these red numbers.
Is that what people
really gets scary is?
I'm sorry, is that what people, when they refer to deficit irrigation, is that what they're talking about?
In a sense, yes. I know on my specific landscape that technically I'm falling into deficit, but the plant material is able to stay healthy in this manner. If I started dropping down, into that where I mentioned the 75% where the turf flashes, that's really truly getting into deficit watering because I'm not able to apply enough water to actually keep the plant material healthy.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So what about these overwater zones?
Yep. So if you look down at zones 9 through 11, you can see that they are all much higher than what the plant requirement is. If we looked at zone 9 and said strawberries, and since we looked at the landscape report, we know that that's watering as flowers. So, that would be one of the first things I would look at is all that information correct? But in all reality, all three of these zones are currently watering on establishment schedules. They're all fairly new planters of flowers in my vegetable garden. And then the strawberries, as I mentioned, we just planted them about a month ago. So we're watching those to make sure that they get established before we turn them around and put them back on full ET.
Yeah. So what is the establishment schedule again, DJ? What does that mean?
So the establishment schedule is it's for new planted material, so turf, or in this case flowers or strawberries, where you're putting it on a special schedule. So you are telling the controller how many minutes you want it to water and at what time, and it's going to run that every single day to help really establish a healthy root zone of that plant material. Really, if you're looking at turf this time of year in Colorado, you're looking at 3 weeks of running full establishment. And some different plants, it does take a little bit longer to actually get that root zone established in that, in that wetter soil.
So DJ, I've got a lot of things to remember these days, and I don't remember as well as I used to. So do I have to remember to go back and take something off, a zone off of an establishment schedule, or or would I just keep wasting water for the whole year?
So potentially, we have the option to set where the establishment schedule will automatically end on a preset date that you enter in, or you can let it be so it runs indefinitely until you go in and shut it off. So we give you the option to do both.
Yeah, I love that option to put an end date to it because, again, with a conventional controller, I have to drive out to the controller, set it, and then drive back in a couple weeks to change it again. Where if I can just set it automatically, then A, I don't have to remember it. I don't have to wake up in the middle of the night going, oh, did I change that? And two, I save the labor in having to do that. So I love that feature.
Definitely, yeah, it's great, especially landscape contractors that are already running 100 miles an hour. That's one less thing, as you mentioned, that they don't have to worry about, that they can just let it turn off and go back to its normal schedule on a set date, and they could even go back in and extend it if they needed extra time.
Yeah, great point on that too.
So now that we really dialed in and see what that these three zones are really skewing my report numbers, it'd be up to each individual user of how you wanted to do it. I know that on these three, I'm going to let them run establishment for, I think it's another 4 days before I actually pull them off, or where they're set to pull off. But since I know that I would say I don't have to take any action. If you weren't sure what this needed to be, that's where you need to dive in zone by zone to really figure out why these numbers are so much higher than what we would want to see right at 0, or technically under the plant requirement number. And then, as I mentioned, across the top here, we give you the total and then 3 other ways to look at this. So I find this really beneficial. If you click on this sites, it's going to give you a summary of the site. So right now, this example, I only have 1 controller on the site. But if I had 25 or 50 controllers, it would give me a synopsis of what all of those controllers are doing on each given day within my 30-day time frame that I have here. And then same thing, if I clicked over onto the controllers, it would break down smart controller 1, smart controller 2, 3. It would go down the list and it would show us what they're doing on each given day. So we could really pick out and choose which ones are, maybe causing problems, which I actually have an example of that coming up here in a couple slides. And then finally, we have the stations where you can really see, how each station is watering on any given day. You can see on June 25th, my first 3 zones, they ran basically with a 0% over under. So we'd call that good. The next, let's see, 6 zones, they didn't run at all. So we were actually able to save a decent amount of water on those days. And then we get into my establishment schedule zones. So those are, adding to our totals of being over at 178% of the plant material.
So DJ, we've got another question coming in, and the question is this: do you always see the same date range, or can you adjust this to 6 months, 1 month, 1 week?
So when you click into the report, it's automatically going to be selected on the last 30 days, but you can go in, you can select month to date, you can select year to date, or you can go in and you can select your custom number. So if you wanted to see what you were doing last month versus this month, excuse me, you could set those dates up to look at all of June and then look at all of July at the end of it and really kind of compare it and see the differences.
Yeah, that's really nice to have those options.
It truly is a customizable report, like the majority of the others that we do have in the system as well.
Yeah.
So then I want to take you to a report that looks much, much better than what my house actually looks like. So this is a site here in Colorado. They have, I believe it's 25 controllers on the site. So we really see that, most days on some days we're really close. A lot of days we're significantly under what the ET is on that given day. So, I would call this an absolute winner on water consumption, because I've been to the site recently and it looks really good. And everything is still green and running properly. And they were able to get these results by using the water budget, by taking it down slowly, 5% at a time until they hit their threshold and then bumping it back up. So that way they're really eking out every single ounce of savings that they can get. But on this controller, I just out of curiosity, I wanted to take a look. So I went ahead and scrolled down. I can see the total number of plant requirement. Again, this is a very high number compared to what I had at my house, because they do have 25 controllers on the site. And you can see the significant amount of savings that they've had in inches. But then I want to dive down a little bit further, and I wanted to see what each controller is doing in reference to what it's going. So like if we look at this Buffalo NP, there's been zero irrigation. That controller, it is it's a native only, so it doesn't get watered all the time. There's only certain times of the year it gets watered. But then I start going down and I'm seeing red all the way through. And then all of a sudden I get to this green. So all of a sudden we have one controller that is over watering. And, when I was putting this together, I wanted to look at it and I really wanted to dive in and find out, well, what's going on with this specific one. So I'm able to use this drop down arrow and drop down, and I'm able to see on a zone by zone basis where we're at. So the first thing I noticed is zones 1, 3, and 4, they're in green. They're using more water than the plant requirement, but yet everything else is under. So I wanted to dive in and figure out a little bit more as to why. So basically what I did is I went into the dashboard and I pulled up the controller itself, and I, excuse me, I started digging through and I clicked into the establishment schedule, and you can see that those 3 zones are on establishment schedule, very similar to what I have at my house, but that are skewing those numbers. So even though it's green and it's it's over what the report is reporting it should be, it's actually okay, because we have an explanation as to why. There's nothing really out there that we don't know. So it's a very good tool to really keep all the controllers under your management, really at bay, making sure what's going on, so that way you don't have anything, out there just overwatering that definitely doesn't need to be.
That's really amazing, DJ, because I'm thinking about 25 controllers. So we saw the total amount of use, but then we could break it down by controller, and then not just by controller, but every station of that controller. I think I could spend a week out there trying to figure this out and not ever figure it out, right? This is an amazing amount of power at your fingertips in just a few clicks of a mouse.
Definitely. Yeah, I use this report a lot if I get, customers that call and say, hey, our water bill's too high, or hey, our landscape doesn't look that good. These are reports that I would pull up, and 90% of the time when I get a call that water's too high, it's something like this that's on establishment schedule, or we have a fixed schedule that someone put in and forgot about. Really it's pretty easy once you dive down through the different levels of the report to really figure out what's causing it, and where. If you can figure out either the controller and or the station, you're able to go do a lot more pointed research instead of looking kind of through everything as a whole.
Yeah. So we do have a question coming in, DJ, and the question is this: if these are customer-owned controllers, how do you have a view of these? Can multiple people see what's going on?
So yeah, multiple people can have access. I want to say it's a ridiculous number, like 100 different people can have access. I don't think I've ever seen anything more than about 10. But we do have different levels of access. So the landscape contractor can have access to it, that we would call an account manager, so they can make all their changes and everything else. But you could also give access to the property manager or the landscape committee, so that way they can log in and they can pull these reports, they can see everything. But we would put them as a reporter or view only, so that way no changes can be made to those specific sites.
Yeah. So DJ, if I had 100 people on, or one on, I mean, does the price change that service, $239, that service fee, annual service fee? Does it charge if I put more people on?
No, it does not. It stays right there at $239. That's just one of those features that we have, because we want to make sure that if you have irrigation techs, or as I mentioned, the landscape committee that wants access, that your techs can access it, you can access it, and then you can let the board members or anybody else have access that wants to really look at this. And there's a lot of very good information that is very beneficial to different people in different organizations.
Yeah. Wow, that's fabulous.
So, and with that, it's kind of a quick version of how the report actually works. Definitely, if anybody has any questions or anything, all of my contact information is up on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to me. And we'll definitely work through some of these reports with you and make sure you have the information that you need.
Yeah, DJ, I love it when you take something and make it so simple for us, right? A couple clicks of the mouse and you can get a summary of what's happening on your property, each controller, each station. Wow, this makes my job so much easier, and a lot of other people's jobs easier. So thank you for that. This is really a generous offer to have access to DJ. Use his phone number, use his email. I know he loves it, and it'll save you a lot of time, money, and trouble as well. He's very quick to assess these situations, or help teach you how to assess these situations so you can do it for yourself. So again, DJ, great job. Thanks very much. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. Really appreciate that. As you know, you can see all our trainings at janesusa.com/trainings, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I love the fact that people are out there in their workday, listening, educating themselves on water management. Helps get me up every day and keep me motivated. So anyway, thanks again, DJ. Thanks to everybody. Appreciate the great questions today as well. And we will see you all next week. Thank you.